Did the creators of Kpop Demon Hunters have ADHD?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because the movie itself definitely does. But that's not a bad thing.
Oh, okay, great.
In fact, it's part of what makes the narrative and filmmaking so effective. Let me explain. When I say that this movie has ADHD, that means two things. First of all, that the story and visuals are presented in a similar way to how someone with ADHD would process and convey information. And second, that as a result of this presentation, the movie is able to engross and engage both neurodivergent and neurotypical viewers, delivering an experience that is as poignant
This is what I am.
as it is iconic. That's why today, we're going to be discussing Kpop Demon Hunters' unique approach to storytelling, analyzing the story structure, songs, characters, and much, much more. I'm Dylan, and this is The Writer's Block. Something that can make staying focused on a particular task or topic difficult for people with ADHD is the time between their input and a noticeable output. Doing math homework on paper can feel like torture because it might be days before your teacher grades the assignment and gives it back to you. But doing math in a program that tells you immediately if the answer is right or wrong can feel like a satisfying video game. Likewise, doing things that have long-term benefit can feel unsatisfying because the gratification is delayed. But if I chuck a third Rockstar Punched right now, I can smell colors immediately. So what does this have to do with KDH's story structure? Well, good movies utilize something called setup and payoff. This is where you introduce a narrative element somewhere in your story,
Check this out. Spy maple syrup.
and then capitalize on it later in the runtime.
It won't stay on. We need something sticky.
In A New Hope, we set up that the Force can allow you to do things beyond the limits of human reflexes.
With the blast shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight?
And then, at the end of the movie, Luke uses the Force to make an impossible shot that blows up the Death Star.
Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million.
Setup and payoff is how we show progress in a narrative, and if you don't do a good job with this element, your movie isn't going to feel satisfying. In the case of Kpop Demon Hunters though, the difference is how quickly payoff occurs after the setup. Take for example this movie's opening, and look at all the elements they establish. The main three characters are singers with secret identities.
The world will know you as pop stars. You will be hunters,
We learn who the main antagonist is.
stealing our souls and channeling strength back to their king, Kima.
We learn the hero's main objective,
The Golden Honmun.
and how they will ultimately accomplish this mission.
It is your voices that will create the Golden Honmun.
The movie then sets up the personalities and dynamics for each of the characters.
Nobody can move like Mira.
Apparently, she was the black sheep of her family.
We're here for Zoe! She's the cutest magnet! Rumi's voice is just incredible.
Celine raised her and built Huntrix around her.
And finally, they establish that this opening concert is important,
This is our biggest show yet.
but that the girls aren't showing up on time.
Ready? Ready. But where are the girls?
Now, you might be thinking, Dylan, isn't this just exposition? And normally, you'd be correct. However, instead of saving the payoff for later in the movie, Kpop Demon Hunters immediately starts capitalizing on what they just established. We go from setting up their dual identity to seeing them fight demons at a concert, which causes both of their identities to collide. We go from establishing their dynamic and personalities to highlighting them in action. Mira is a straight talker
Yeah, this plane's trashed.
who gets straight to business. Zoe can be cute and timid, but when things get serious, so does she. Rumi might be the star of the group, but her main concern is protecting the people she cares about,
Keep your shirt on, Bobby. We'll be there in 3.
be it with her actions or her voice. The movie also immediately highlights the antagonist by having his demons attack,
You've got the patterns. Now you gotta die.
and shows how close Huntrix is to creating the Golden Honmun during their opening song. If this was just exposition, you could easily cut one of these sequences. If the concert didn't happen, the prologue would still tell us everything we need to know for the rest of the narrative. And if you cut out the prologue, the opening song and action sequence still shows us all the same information. So why does this film include both? Well, like I said, it's not just exposition. Seeing the elements on display during their concert feels more rewarding because it was established during the prologue. It builds up anticipation and excitement. Even before the title drop, the movie sets up half a dozen major narrative elements and manages to pay them all off in less than 8 minutes, which is incredibly impressive. This means you trust that the movie won't waste your time, and it makes you eager to see what ideas they're going to introduce next because you know they will actually capitalize on them. Shows like Game of Thrones set up narrative threads years ahead of when they're going to be paid off, which can be incredibly satisfying. But when they fail to do so, it causes the audience to completely lose faith in the show.
While Danny kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet and Euron's forces.
But when Kpop Demon Hunters makes a narrative promise, it delivers more reliably than Amazon Prime. Now, this quick turnaround between setup and payoff also applies to the rest of the movie and is the secret to its excellent pacing. See, boring movies often suffer from something I call "and then" syndrome. This is where scenes in a movie just flow aimlessly from one to the next, with little to no cause and effect. This happens,
so go back to the club.
And then that happens.
Yes, 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 yes.
And then something totally unrelated happens.
What do you think of this I got?
The scenes don't build upon one another, so it's not rewarding to watch them all, making you want to leave the theater or turn off the movie. Movies with good pacing have scenes that can be connected by but, therefore, and because. In Finding Nemo, Marlin loses most of his family.
Ooh, barracuda.
Therefore, he shelters his one remaining son. But Nemo wants to have more autonomy, therefore, he decides to touch the butt on his first day of school. And because of this, he's kidnapped. Therefore, Marlin has to go find him. Kpop Demon Hunters definitely falls into the latter category, but there's something special about its scene structure that makes the pacing almost hypnotic. Y'all remember that scene transition in Shrek the Third where Shrek says,
"Somebody better be dying,"
and then it hard cuts to,
"I'm dying."
Well, that's kind of how this movie weaves all of its scenes together.
There's not 10,000 fans at the door screaming and sounding really scary.
There's 10,000 fans at the door screaming and sounding really scary.
Obviously, it's not quite as direct, but the dialogue and visuals at the end of one scene tend to explicitly set up the objective and conflict in the one that follows. Visually, the opening sequence ends with several demons being trapped by the Han Moon. Then the next scene focuses on the demon's failure,
Useless! All of you!
and the ticking clock for the antagonist.
Once the hunters turn the Holman gold, it's over for us!
Later, we see this done through dialogue. When Mira and Zoe find out that Rumi released their new single, they say,
Did you announce the new single?
The promo starts tomorrow tonight.
which leads directly into a montage of them doing promo for Golden. When Rumi discovers that her patterns are hindering her voice, she says to herself,
How am I supposed to fix the world when I don't have my voice?
which sets up the next scene where they discuss what to do about Rumi's voice
We have 2 weeks to fix Rumi's voice. Any ideas?
and how much time they have left. Scene transitions like these are so engaging because of framing. It tells the viewer what to look for in the next scene and helps them clock how much progress is being made. When Huntrix is planning to ambush the Sacha boys, Rumi says,
Once they come off the stage, we'll jump down for the attack.
the viewer now knows that their objective in the next scene is to catch the Sacha boys off guard. However, that's not what happens. Right as the Sacha boys are about to leave and get attacked, Chinu does this.
Please welcome Huntrix!
It feels so much more engaging when Genu turns the tables on Huntrix because we know exactly how Rumi wanted the scene to go. Framing like this is so important because it makes it rewarding when things go according to plan and exciting whenever they don't. Now, by no means does every movie need to be this direct about how its scenes intertwine. A movie like Glass Onion, for example, intentionally obfuscates what denotes progress for the first half of the movie. It's only once the big twist is revealed at the midpoint that you start to see how the different scenes and elements are connected. The viewer has to wait significantly longer between setup and payoff, which can be more satisfying in the long run, but also makes your first viewing feel far less engaging. Conversely, Kpop Demon Hunters is constantly drawing a clear line between cause and effect, allowing the viewer to absorb information somewhat passively. This is also why the movie is so rewatchable. Every single scene flows seamlessly into the next, almost lulling you into a trance while watching. Now, I think some people might say that this means the movie is dumbed down or simple because it doesn't require active engagement from the audience. But I think it's a sign of good storytelling. Much like good music, good cinema allows you to lose yourself in the groove. Speaking of music, let's talk about the songs. Starting with the opening number, how it's done is both an excellent song and an excellent way to set expectations for the rest of the movie. See, believe it or not, Kpop Demon Hunters is a musical. And one question every musical has to answer is how do we handle people breaking into song? In something like The Greatest Showman, people break into song when words alone aren't enough to convey their emotions. Meanwhile, in something like Les Mis, singing is the main form of communication throughout the entire runtime.
Shoot me now or shoot me later. Fire!
Additionally, there's the question of diegesis. Are the songs actually being sung in universe?
I don't know what your name is, but I like it.
Or are they a storytelling device that isn't meant to be taken literally?
Is this the start of something wonderful and new?
What I love about how it's done is that it answers all of these questions immediately. This sequence starts with dialogue.
You're a demon, right?
So we know that this musical isn't sung through. Then we get an instrumental vamp that eases us into the song before the girls start singing.
You came at a bad time, but you just crossed the line.
Additionally, this number begins non-diegetically, making it clear that this movie isn't ashamed to be a musical. This song is also used as an action sequence, showing the audience that Huntrix literally fights demons with their music. Speaking of which, look at this moment right here. I didn't notice this until recently, but the girls are conjuring their weapons directly from the Hanmoon. On top of just being flat out awesome, it's further evidence that their voices are their greatest weapon. When the girls jump out of the plane and land on stage, this is when the song shifts into being diegetic. The song is actually happening in universe, and everyone on screen can hear it just like the audience. This is important because it lets us see Huntrix completely in their element. After seeing them perform on stage, you as the viewer get why they're so popular, and seeing how many adoring fans they have makes the stakes that much higher for the rest of the movie.
This is the battle for hearts and minds. A battle for the fans.
We even get to see how the fans are what helped generate the Hanmoon, which is excellent foreshadowing for the end of the movie. With all that in mind, let's talk lyrics. A trend we see get set up in this song that continues throughout the rest of the movie is lyrics that trick you into thinking they're generic. In both K-pop and Western pop, lyrics are often designed to appeal to as broad an audience as possible.
So I describe my dream girl as really, really vague, like...
This is by no means a bad thing, but it can be a bit of a challenge for a musical, which is supposed to tell the story of specific characters. What Kpop Demon Hunters does so brilliantly is design its story and characters around these types of lyrics. Take for example when Rumi sings,
Make it fear afraid to bring till the dark beats alive.
In a vacuum, this lyric sounds cliched and uninspired. There are countless songs that use symbolism just like this.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
So they aren't inherently impactful. But wait, if we look at these lyrics in the context of the movie's narrative, they're actually hyper-specific to Rumi.
Hear a voice unwavering.
The main conflict of the film is Rumi losing her voice. It does in fact waver, and she is forced to reevaluate everything she was so sure of up until this point.
Till the song defeats the night.
Ultimately, their song will defeat Kima, but the question is which song? Another major conflict of this movie is how the characters handle shame. Rumi is ashamed of her patterns and has been taught to hide them no matter the cost.
Make it fear afraid to bring.
She wants to snuff out that part of who she is, but she ends up suffocating herself in the process. We'll talk about it more later, but one of the lyrics she sings when she starts accepting her patterns is,
Here with you I can finally breathe.
Again, this movie is about accepting ourselves as we are. In order to self-actualize, Rumi needs to make peace with both halves of herself.
Till the dark beats alive.
Likewise, when the group is singing together, their lyrics reflect their shared journey.
Hear that sound ringing in your mind.
Rumi doesn't know it, but Mira and Zoe also have a great deal of inner shame. And in this movie, shame is represented by Gima's voice.
Do you not hear him in your ear?
He is the sound ringing in their mind, and we see this leading up to the final concert.
You thought you found a family? You don't deserve one. You never have.
Again, this is foreshadowing for the end of the film. The fans are an integral part of the Hanmoon. Without them, Huntrix wouldn't be able to defeat Kima. Conversely, if the fans didn't have Huntrix to inspire them, they wouldn't be able to create the Hanmoon. They need the group to set an example for them, or put another way. Now, Jinu's song is incredibly short, and even shorter if you don't count the spoken word poetry.
Stop me if you've heard this one before.
But all the same, it tells us a great deal about the character. First, it shows us that Jinu is observant.
Now all he does is starve
Just a whisper in the dark.
He sees just how desperate Gima actually is, and knows that the Demon King is scared.
Is this the end of him now?
This comes back into play when he meets Rumi, and he's able to read her like a book.
A demon girl, also hunter.
Additionally, this is the most human he sounds throughout the entire movie.
Dying king with the crumbling crown.
Before being cursed, Gino was a busker who had nothing but his family and his instrument. Seeing him sing like this is incredibly reminiscent of his time as a human, which is why his voice sounds so much more vulnerable than when he's with the Saja boys.
Will he let the fire go out?
Another challenge posed by being a musical about K-pop is that almost every song is a group number. This means that in addition to writing good songs, you also have to be smart about who sings which lyrics. And Golden is a great example of this. Rumi's lyrics once again speak to her specific character arc. See, a major part of most character arcs is the lie the character chooses to believe. Basically, it's a misconception that is holding the character back in life, and they can't become who they were meant to be until they realize it's not true. In something like The Greatest Showman, Burnham initially believes that financial success is what will make him and his family happy. But by the end of the movie, he realizes that spending time with the people he cares about is what actually brings him joy.
It's everything you ever want. It's everything you ever need.
In Kpop Demon Hunters, the lie Rumi believes is,
I was a ghost, I was alone.
Because of how Celine raised her, Rumi is deeply ashamed of her demon heritage.
Cover those up. You only have those because
My dad was a demon.
Celine also convinced Rumi that people would turn on her if they found out about her patterns.
Maybe they'll understand.
No, Rumi. Nothing can change until your patterns are gone.
Which is why she mistakenly believes that she is alone. The following lyrics then hint at the journey she'll take throughout the movie. From a young age, Rumi was given the burden of leadership,
Given the throne, I didn't know
but not given the tools she needed to do a good job.
how to believe I was the queen that I'm meant to be.
Part of what makes a good leader is the ability to admit when you're wrong. If you want to be an example for others, it's okay to make mistakes, but you need to be confident enough to not let those mistakes define you. Rumi thinks that being honest about her shame makes her weak.
This is why we have to hide it.
But in reality, it makes her brave. Looking at Mira and Zoe's sections, they're simultaneously deeply personal and yet still applicable to the broader themes of the movie. When Zoe sings,
Try to play both sides, but I couldn't find my own place.
on one level, it's about her multifaceted identity. She grew up in America, but is now a singer in Korea. She's normally soft-spoken, but also has an aggressive side.
You guys would tell me if I was really like that, right?
On a thematic level, this whole movie is about dual identities. When characters try to placate both sides of who they are separately, they end up falling short. But when they realize that both aspects of who they are can coexist, they find harmony and success. When Mira sings,
Caught a problem child, 'cause I got too wild.
it's literally about how she broke free of her troubled family life and became an idol. Metaphorically, it speaks to one of the lessons the characters wind up learning, that the parts of yourself that people want you to hide can often be the very things that make you special. Now, if we look at when all three characters sing together, we get brilliant foreshadowing for how the movie is going to end. Obviously, Gonna Be Golden is a reference to the Hanmoon, but I think the reference to glowing is a bit more subtle. The big culmination for Rumi's arc is when she accepts who she really is, which causes her patterns to glow. Additionally, the glowing gets brighter and brighter as she reunites with Zoe and Mira. But wait, if the lyrics already contain the main theme of the narrative, why does the movie still need to happen? Well, Rumi, Mira, and Zoe might understand these ideas in their heads, but they don't believe it in their hearts. And that's partially why Rumi's voice keeps cracking.
No more hiding, I know I believe.
At this point in the narrative, she isn't done hiding, and she doesn't actually believe. Rumi has yet to internalize the message in her own lyrics, and her inability to sing is a physical consequence. Alright, it's finally time to talk about the Saja boys.
A demon boy band? What makes you think that could work?
The Sasha Boys are primarily meant to be commentary on the parasocial dynamics between idols and the audience. They believe the fans should serve them and exploit their obsession at every opportunity. The first time we see this is during Soda Pop. On the surface, it's a squeaky clean pop song with a catchy hook.
My little soda pop.
And the Sasha Boys even service the community during their performance. But the lyrics wind up revealing their actual intentions.
Don't want you, need you, yeah, I need you to fill me up.
Right away, the song frames the audience as a resource to be consumed. Without their souls, Gima and the demons can't gain power. The audience doesn't suspect anything because metaphors like this are commonplace in pop music, but the song is constantly comparing them to food.
Cause you got it like that. Take a big bite, want another bite, yeah. You're all I can think of, every drop I drink up.
What's even more sinister is how the songs talk about obsession.
Cause I need you to need me, I'm empty, you feed me.
The Sasha Boys are like sugar or nicotine. They're designed to be addictive. Their plan only works if the fans have an unhealthy relationship with them and their music. And just like actual soda pop, their songs are essentially empty calories. Whereas Huntrix tries to include meaningful messages in all their music, the Sasha Boys just want you to consume mindlessly so that they can do the same.
Good. I'm ready to feast.
Takedown is another example of being smart about who gets to sing what lyrics. Rumi is the one who comes up with the title,
Takedown. That's the song. It's a takedown.
reinforcing that Huntrix follows her lead. Zoe and Mira then come up with most of the lyrics.
So sweet, so easy on the eyes, but hideous on the inside.
Whole life spreading lies, but you can't hide.
Meaning that Takedown represents their feelings about demons rather than Rumi's. The main lyric Rumi comes up with is,
I'm about to switch up this vibes, I finally open my eyes.
Which is meant to reference how her attitude towards demons is starting to change. Because of Jinu, she's starting to believe that patterns don't make you inherently evil.
When your patterns start to show, I see a pain that lies below.
But she still has doubts about this, which is why she can't actually sing the lines in person.
I'm about to switch up these vibes.
The most important lyric from this section is,
how about a demon with no feelings doesn't deserve to live?
It's so obvious.
because it's Zoe and Mira who say it. In Rumi's mind, this is confirmation that her friends would not accept her if they knew about her patterns, which further increases her shame. Additionally, when Mira tells Rumi,
if you're with us, prove it.
It makes Rumi believe that she has to choose between Jinu and her friends, between being a demon and being a hunter. It's for this exact reason that Rumi sings,
I don't think you're ready for the takedown.
She isn't ready to choose a side. She knows deep down that she shouldn't have to, but she doesn't see how both sides can coexist yet. And this is what makes the next line so poignant.
A demon with no feelings don't deserve to live. It's so obvious.
Rumi is singing lines written by her best friends. These lines are indirectly about her, and she's struggling with the dissonance this causes. She's been taught her whole life that demons don't have feelings, but she's part demon, and she feels so much. She's been taught that the line between good and evil is obvious, but after meeting Jinu, things don't seem black and white anymore. We also see the consequences of the girls' conflict during this sequence. Dozens of passengers lose their souls because the girls were fighting amongst themselves rather than fighting demons. It's a perfect showcase of how insecurities can cause you to focus on the wrong thing. Rumi is worried that Mira and Zoe won't accept her. Mira is hurt because she thinks Rumi's insecurity reflects poorly on their friendship, and Zoe is scared that if the others are fighting, it's because she isn't doing enough to hold them together. But as we see by the end of the movie, the foundation of their friendship is a strong one. Their insecurities are understandable, but they are also indulgent. If they were all brave enough to believe that they deserved each other's love, they could have easily prevented losing those people on the train. This is supported further by their conversation at the end of the sequence.
Whatever you think about the song, it doesn't matter right now.
See, in any relationship, it's important to differentiate between what was said, what was meant, and what was heard. For instance, what Mira says to Rumi is,
everything is at stake, and we just need to get through this together.
What Mira is trying to say is that this argument isn't important. I love you, and if we can just work together, we can overcome any problem. But what Rumi hears is, your feelings aren't important, just ignore them. Conform like the rest of us and fall in line. And when Zoe tells her,
You know I'm always on your side, but It's really hard to understand this time.
Zoe is trying to say, I'm always going to love you, Rumi, but I can't be there for you unless you let down your walls. Please stop shutting me out. But what Rumi hears is, I've put up with you for a long time, but whatever you're going through now is just too much for me.
We can't win this without your voice, Rumi.
Once again, what Zoe means is, your true voice is amazing, Rumi. Stop trying to censor who you really are. But what Rumi hears is, we don't need you, Rumi. Your ability to sing is all we care about. Even before they can hear Gima, their insecurities are warping how they perceive reality. Which leads us into the final appearance of this song. During the Idol Awards, Jinu and the Demons put Takedown back into the performance.
Takedown? They put this back in?
The Demons are using this song to attack Rumi's insecurity, which is why they imitate Zoe and Mira. Rumi always viewed this song as a sign that her friends wouldn't accept her, but in this performance, we literally see them sing to Rumi and take her down.
Cause I see a real face and it's ugly as sin.
Obviously, it's not the real Zoe and Mira, but when it comes to shame, reality doesn't really matter.
You're a demon. A mistake.
Speaking of which, let's talk about Rumi's date with the demon.
Date? No, ew! What are you talking about?
Rumi and Jinu's dynamic is a key pillar of this narrative, so it's incredibly important that we believe in their relationship. Obviously, their flirty banter is adorable, and when you look like this, it's not too hard to see why they like each other. But the song Free does a lot to make their connection more than just skin deep. Jinu first felt a connection with Rumi when he sees her patterns in the bathhouse.
A hunter who's part demon?
And Rumi starts to connect with Jinu after he reveals his backstory.
You know, you can tell me. I understand.
Jinu is proof to Rumi that you can be part demon and still be human, and Rumi is proof to Jinu that being a demon doesn't have to define you. Eventually, this culminates in Free, a duet that's all about how they bring out the best in each other and give one another hope.
I try to smile, I was suffocating though.
Rumi has been suppressing who she is for as long as she can remember.
Here with you, I can finally breathe.
Jinu is the first person to explicitly validate her identity, which is incredibly liberating.
And you're waking up all these parts of me that I thought were buried for good.
Likewise, Jinu's feelings for Rumi remind him that his humanity is still intact.
We can't fix it if we never face it.
When the two characters come together, they finally start to understand the main message of the narrative. But this is barely past the midpoint, so what's the catch? Well, even though they start to internalize the main message, there's one big caveat. Sure, the main character is willing to overcome her shame,
I've been hoping to change, now I know we can change.
but she only believes it's possible if Jinu changes too.
But I won't if you're not by my side.
Just like at the beginning of her arc, Rumi is still looking for validation externally, but true validation comes from within.
What if we find a way to escape it?
On some level, they're still avoiding the underlying issue.
Help us win the Idol Awards. You can be on this side when the Honmun is sealed. You can be free from those voices forever.
Unless they directly confront their shame, they aren't really accepting themselves, only each other. This is also why the song is so full of questions and conflict.
Why does it feel right every time I let you in?
Ain't no choice when all these voices keep me pointed towards no end.
Why does it feel like I can tell you anything?
I don't trust it, but I want to. I keep coming back to
Why does it feel right?
Right now, they understand about 80% of the movie's theme, but until they figure out that last 20%, they aren't going to feel complete. Also, this is a great chance to talk about how this movie approaches music in general. Almost every song in this soundtrack feels specifically designed to get stuck in your head.
It's catchy.
And this is partially because of how often the songs switch up the rhythm and melody. Looking at this song, these are all the lyrics before the chorus, and if we group them by rhythmic phrases, it looks like this. That's 5 unique phrasings in one verse, which by Western standards is pretty uncommon. On top of this, they give us 5 completely different phrasings when we get to Jinu's verse. Looking at a song like Stick Season, which I would argue has a pretty run-of-the-mill song structure, we see that there are far fewer unique ideas. So how does this affect the listener's experience? Well, because it doesn't settle into a predictable melodic pattern, the soundtrack emphasizes anticipation over resolution. And because the melodies don't resolve as often, it creates a feedback loop where as soon as the song ends, you feel compelled to play it all over again.
It's infectious.
I for one only fell in love with the soundtrack after listening to it a couple of times because it took me that long to get used to the groove. Anyways, let's move on to the next song. First off, to the creatives behind this movie, you know exactly what you were doing with this number. Don't play coy, don't act surprised, you knew exactly what this number was going to do to people. Part of what makes this sequence unique is how rarely we get villain songs this late in a musical. The only examples I can think of is the Prince Ali reprise in Aladdin.
So Ali turns out to be merely a Aladdin.
And Javert's Oops, Forgot My Bungee Cord in Les Mis.
Damned if I live in the death of a thief. Damned if I yield at the end of the chase.
See, Be Your Idol happens after everyone has given up hope and given into their shame, which is precisely what this song is about.
Anytime it hurts, play another verse. I can be a sanctuary.
The Sasha Boys are offering a way for people to ignore their pain, but they aren't offering a way to eliminate it. The demons still need that pain to exist because it's what they feed on. The Sasha Boys have a parasitic relationship with the fans.
Living in your mind now. Too late, 'cause you're mine now.
And the lyrics constantly allude to this.
Yeah, you gave me your heart, now I'm here for your soul.
The other focus of the song is controlling and isolating the audience.
Keeping you in check, keeping you obsessed.
In many ways, Guimard functions like a narcissist. He doesn't want people to have connections other than him.
No, I'm the only one right now. I will love you more when it all burns down.
Which is part of why he tries to sabotage positive relationships.
If you really thought you could escape what you are, you would have told her the truth.
As the song progresses, the lyrics start to group the audience with Guimard and suggest that merging with him is their only chance for salvation.
I will make you free when you're all a part of me.
Even the line,
Listen, 'cause I'm preaching to the choir.
shows that Guimard and the Sasha Boys don't view the fans as people. They're merely an echo chamber meant to reinforce their own objectives. Now, even though each Sasha Boy gets a good verse, Gino's lines are the most important.
I'm the only one who'll love your sins.
At first glance, it sounds like he's amplifying the same message as everyone else, but if you consider the events of the narrative, it's actually a reference to his time with Rumi.
Feel the way my voice gets underneath your skin.
He was the first person to accept Rumi because of her patterns, not in spite of them. His words got so far under her skin that she began questioning everything she previously stood for. This, combined with the fact that he's wearing Rumi's bracelet, are a great way to foreshadow that he's still capable of change. During the song, he succumbs to his shame just like everyone else, but when Rumi shows that patterns don't have to define you, he's finally able to break free. And with that in mind, let's examine the final song in this musical. This number begins with Rumi confronting Guimard.
We are hunters, voices strong.
And since Guimard feeds off shame,
you think you can fix the world. You can't even fix yourself.
This is the first instance of Rumi confronting her shame directly. She agrees with what Guimard is saying because it's the truth.
I can't. They do. It is.
And the truth is something she's no longer ashamed of.
Nothing but the truth now.
Additionally, her patterns are now iridescent, a physical transformation that represents internal change. Instead of feeling shame about who she is,
the worst of what I came from, patterns I'm ashamed of.
Rumi chooses to embrace her identity with pride, causing her patterns to become something beautiful rather than embarrassing. More importantly though, she takes accountability for how she treated her friends. Rumi realizes that she didn't give her friends a chance to love all of her. She chose to put up walls that they couldn't tear down.
I don't know why I didn't trust you to be on my side.
And when she finally admits to this, Zoe and Mira realize the same thing. They were also scared to live their truth.
Why did I cover up the color stuck inside my head?
And just like Rumi, they put up emotional walls instead of being vulnerable and forming connections.
I should've let the jagged edges meet the light instead.
Up until now, they were too scared to speak their truth.
We listened to the demons, we let them get between us.
But when Guimard shattered their whole world, those walls got shattered too. With nothing to hide behind, they see each other as they truly are.
But now I'm seeing all the beauty in the broken glass.
and what they see are three people who love and care for one another regardless of their faults. This radical vulnerability is also what inspires Jinu to sacrifice himself. Rather than needing Rumi to validate his identity, she showed him that he gets to choose his own identity and validate himself.
I wanted to set you free.
You did.
He believed that what he did to his family would define him forever, but now he sees that he can choose to be the guy that does the right thing in the end.
You gave me my soul back, and now I give it to you.
The most important part of the song, though, is when the crowd begins to sing along. In addition to repeating the title, the chant is also a callback to the melody of Golden. And this reveals something really powerful. Even though Golden wasn't the song that sealed the honeymoon, it still had a profound effect on the fans, meaning that even when Huntrix wasn't a perfect team, they still inspired positivity and growth in their community. This moment in the finale is when the fans finally get to give back all the strength that Huntrix gave them. And taking this one step further, since the song manages to defeat Gima, it's irrefutable proof that amplifying pride and positivity is more powerful than shame ever could be. Also, quick side note, but something I just now realized is how clever the costuming for this section is. When the demons expose Rumi during the Idol Awards, they physically remove the black jacket from her body. In addition to revealing her patterns, it makes her visually distinct from Zoe and Mira. The all-white outfit represents vulnerability and exposure, which initially made Rumi feel ashamed. But when Rumi returns to save the day, Zoe and Mira realize it's better to be vulnerable as a group, which is why their outfits change colors after they hug. Finally, this song is the most unique in the whole movie because its structure is the most traditional. There are very few switch-ups in the rhythm or melody. Instead, the verses repeatedly build tension, and the chorus resolves that tension with the line,
This is what it sounds like.
In my opinion, the song does this for two main reasons. First, this is the end of the movie, so it makes sense for melodic resolution to coincide with narrative resolution. Secondly, the movie wants you to sing along with this song. You're meant to connect with Huntrix and their fans.
For the fans!
So having a song that is more repetitive and predictable allows you to join in, even on your first viewing. Overall, the songs in Kpop Demon Hunters are fantastic. But what makes me so happy is that this movie is proud to be a musical. Every song is intentional. Every lyric helps explore the characters and story. The genre of this music makes it appeal to a wider audience than classical musical theater, but all the things that really matter in a musical are still there. Additionally, because there are so many layers and so much depth to the music, the audience gets to choose which parts they focus on. Do you want to hyperfixate on the lyrics and find every double meaning? You can do that. Do you want to watch all the choreography and struggle to replicate it because you'll never look as sharp as animation? You can do that. Do you want to zone out to great music and stare at attractive fictional characters?
I can do that. I can do that.
Jumping back to the idea of focus and attention span, there are some people who might accuse the cinematography and editing of being hyperactive to a fault, and even though I disagree, I can understand why. There is a lot of auditory and visual information being thrown at the viewer throughout the entire movie. That much stimuli can be overwhelming for a lot of people, but Kpop Demon Hunters does a few things to make things easy for the audience. The first is visual composition. Good cinematography relies on visual composition to direct your focus and make information easier to process. This shot contains two people, but the size of Ana de Armas makes it so your eyes look towards her first rather than Ryan Gosling. It also subconsciously communicates that Ryan Gosling feels insignificant, which makes sense given what happens in the narrative. This shot contains lots of people, but Cedric and Cho are in the center, so your eye naturally focuses on them instead of the extras. Additionally, the amount of detail in a frame affects how long it takes to process. It's hard to appreciate The Last Supper in one glance because there are so many different characters and elements. Conversely, the Mona Lisa is a single subject portrait. It still has tons of depth, but you get the gist pretty darn quickly. If we look at the opening fight scene, there are 52 individual shots between the start of the song and when they jump out of the plane. That number is even higher if you consider camera movement that creates multiple compositions in one take. This averages out to less than 1.7 seconds per shot, with many shots lasting less than half a second. Needless to say, that's not a lot of time to process what's going on. But if you look at the shots individually, the composition is relatively simple and does an excellent job drawing your attention to what matters. This shot is meant to show the girls calling on the honeymoon, and the Hanmoon is the only thing moving in the shot, so it's relatively easy to process. These shots are meant to establish what weapons the girls use. The weapons are the brightest thing in frame, so they're the first things our eyes notice. This shot is meant to tell us how long the girls need to wait before eating their noodles. The crash zoom directs our attention, and the instructions take up the whole frame, meaning it's the only thing we can pay attention to. The second trick is object continuity. Even when the camera is moving rapidly or we're cutting between several different shots, there's always an object or character that acts as a visual anchor. In this beat, the Hanmoon pulse is what creates continuity between all three shots. During this sequence, there are tons of unique compositions in a short period of time, but all of them are linked together by the water pitcher. Tracking the path it takes eases the transition between each individual shot. In this continuous shot, the camera moves rapidly between each character, but because you can see the next character before the camera moves to them, it doesn't feel jarring. The same thing happens in the bathhouse fight.
We finally get to go to the bathhouse with Rumi!
This shot is initially focused on Zoe, but the camera movement ends up tracking Rumi as she jumps into frame, allowing her to become the new focal point. Moments later, when Jinu is trying to escape, the camera initially tracks his movement. But as soon as Rumi crashes through the door, the camera centers on her and follows her movement as she attacks Jinu. Shifting focus from one thing to the next isn't a problem as long as you make it clear how one thing connects to another. And this is why the cinematography is so engaging. With so much happening on screen, it's almost impossible to be bored. But with so much visual clarity and continuity, watching the movie also feels incredibly zen and relaxing. It's a flow state that few other films ever achieve, and even fewer manage to maintain for their entire runtime. Next, I want to look at some of the secondary characters, analyzing their personalities, narrative arcs, and why it's so easy to project ourselves onto them. Starting with Jinu, he plays a really complex role in the narrative.
Yeah, Jinu!
Jinu.
On one hand, he's the mentor figure. He teaches Rumi about what it's like being a demon.
Demons don't feel anything.
Is that what you think? That's all demons do. Feel our shame, our misery.
And helps her learn to accept her patterns. On the other hand, he's the main villain of the movie. Sure, Gima is the head honcho, but Jinu is the one who sets the conflict in motion.
I'm not here to mock you. I'm here to help you.
He's the one who comes up with the evil scheme.
We fight the hunters where they least expect it, the fans.
And is the front man for the Saja boys.
Play games with us!
In terms of narrative function, Jinu is Darth Vader and Gima is Palpatine in The Empire Strikes Back. But like Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi, Jinu also plays the part of parallel protagonist. He's struggling with the same conflict as the main hero, and eventually learns the same lesson, but at the cost of his own life. What makes this so complex is that there isn't a clear shift from one function to the next throughout the runtime. Instead, he bounces back and forth between these roles in a way that parallels his moral conflict. When he first meets Rumi on the street, he's in total villain mode.
Watch yourself.
He is fully aligned with the Saja boys and their plan to destroy the Hanmoon. It's only when he finds out about Rumi's patterns,
a hunter who's part demon,
that he starts to become a mentor. That being said, he's still part villain, and this can be seen in how he tries to help Rumi.
But first, I want to talk about those pants.
His goal during their first meeting is to gain her trust.
You were supposed to be dead by now!
I could have told your friends what you are, but I didn't.
But he specifically wants her to trust only him.
I understand. I'm the only one who can.
He doesn't want to grow with Rumi, he wants her to change in order to be just like him. And it's for that exact reason that Rumi isn't convinced.
I'm nothing like you.
The first time either one of them start to get through to one another is during the fan event.
Joy signing!
Since we know that Jinu wasn't honest about his backstory, this line right here is the first time he starts to tell Rumi the truth.
Look, if I help him, he's promised to erase my memories, and those voices in my head will be gone.
Much of Jinu's internal conflict is about how he lies to himself. Jinu wants to believe that there isn't good in him because that's far less complicated. It's much more complicated and tragic to accept that he's capable of good, but chose to do bad things because it was easier.
I only made a deal with Kima to get myself out of the miserable life.
Another critical bit of dialogue at the signing is when Jinu says,
if hate could defeat Kima, I would have done it a long time ago.
First off, this line is what makes Rumi see Jinu in a different light. Learning that he also despises Gima is what gives her hope that he can change, which is the main reason she continues to meet with him. Secondly, it tells us why the character has failed up until this point. Jinu can't defeat Gima with hate because self-hatred is what fuels Jinu's shame, and shame is what fuels Gima. Jinu hates himself for what he did to his family.
I left my sister, my mother, while I slept on silk sheets in the palace with my belly full every night.
And that self-hate is why he doesn't believe he's capable of change. We'll get there in a bit, but Jinu can only defeat Gima if he forgives himself and commits a selfless act. On top of this, when Jinu gets a note from a fan telling him he has a beautiful soul,
I made this for you.
For me?
It challenges his belief that he's a soulless monster. It's also a great bit of animation because all the Saja boys stop masking and revert to demon posture, but Jinu continues to stand like a human because deep down, he's more than a monster. The film also continues to show a divide between him and the Sasha boys when they're doing promo. Jinu stays silent when they're talking about their fan club, and his expression indicates regret when he sees souls being delivered to Gima. The next time Jinu and Rumi meet is on their Definitely Not a Date.
Oh no, we're not.
no.
She's not even my type.
Excuse me? I'm everyone's type.
And this time, the roles are reversed. Jinu is fully in his conflicted protagonist mode, and Rumi is the emotional mentor. She's the one showing Jinu that he doesn't have to be defined by his mistake.
You made a mistake, Jinu.
It's not that simple.
She's also the one who is actively making a plan.
Help us win the Idol Awards, and that will guarantee your freedom.
Now, the main pearl of wisdom in this scene is when Rumi tells him,
That's the funny thing about hope. Nobody else gets to decide if you feel it.
Up until now, Jinu has been actively choosing not to hope.
If your hope only hurts, so why just forget it?
Because he's scared of disappointment. Additionally, if he admits that he has agency, it makes him more accountable for the things he's ashamed of.
What makes you think the Honmun can save a guy like me?
So even though he doesn't internalize what Rumi is saying about him, he does come to believe that Rumi is worth saving.
For what it's worth, I don't think you're a mistake.
This is made even more clear the next time they see each other. Jinu is brave enough to have hope for others.
I want to believe in your crazy plan.
But having hope for himself is still too much.
But I don't think I'm the one to help you.
So what changes this? Well, during Jinu and Rumi's duet, Rumi has multiple lyrics that group them together as a team.
Now I know we can change. What if we find a way to escape it? We can't fix it if we never face it.
And allude to their romantic connection.
Why does it feel right every time I let you in?
Jinu might not be willing to believe in himself just yet, but he's grown enough to believe in a team he is a part of. On a similar note, Jinu's verse shows that the human parts of himself are still in there.
And you're waking up all these parts of me that I thought were buried for good.
They might have been suppressed, but that doesn't mean they've been eliminated. But with that in mind, one line in particular foreshadows why Jinu isn't actually ready to change.
It's just easy when I'm with you. No one sees me the way you do.
Based on this line, Jinu only sees the good in himself through Rumi. He wants to be the type of person Rumi sees him as, but he doesn't believe that he is that man. He believes that his redemption is conditional on Rumi's validation of him, but as we mentioned before, true validation can only come from within. This is why it's so important when he says,
I don't hear his voice.
Jinu's core flaw is that he's been trying to erase the voices rather than confront them. He's haunted by what he did to his mother and sister, and thinks that moment will define him forever.
Don't think you can escape what you are.
When Rumi says,
we could be free,
Jinu thinks it means that together they can outrun the guilt and shame, not overcome it. It's for that exact reason that Gima is able to convince him to betray Rumi. Gima convinces Jinu that Rumi could never truly love him, that inevitably she will find out the truth and leave him. And because he only believes he can change if he's with Rumi, this moment causes him to lose all hope and revert to the role of villain.
Say you didn't do this. How could you do this?
After sabotaging Rumi at the Idol Awards, Jinu goes back to suppressing his human side. He tells Rumi,
it was all a lie.
But the audience knows this isn't true. Once again, it's easier to deny his own moral nuance than admit that he has agency. He tells Rumi,
you're a demon. All we get to do is live with our pain.
But the key part of this dialogue is when he says,
that's all we deserve.
What this actually means is that Jinwoo doesn't believe he deserves anything more than misery. Jinwoo is warping his view of the world around him to match his view of himself. What I find so interesting about this scene is that Jinwoo's betrayal is the only reason he's able to change in the end. At this moment, he has completely abandoned Rumi. He has broken her trust and spat in the face of everything they have been working to build together. His actions also led to Zoe and Mira turning on Rumi. Rumi has no one by her side, no one to set an example for her, and no one to validate her identity. And yet, despite all of that, she comes back to face Gima, fully embracing both parts of her identity.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is what finally makes Jinwoo realize that he alone gets to choose what type of person he wants to be.
That choice belongs to you.
Despite every selfish act he committed in his lifetime, he decides his final act will be one of sacrifice.
You gave me my soul back, and now I give it to you.
Ultimately, Jinwoo represents how difficult it is to overcome a static mindset. It's easier to believe we can't change because changing ourselves for the better can seem incredibly difficult. I know that's been the case for me in all aspects of my life. If I've been eating badly and not exercising, I tell myself I'm lazy and don't deserve to improve. If I haven't been writing enough, I tell myself no one wants to hear what I have to say anyway, so I should just give up. But we get to choose what we do with our lives, and if you choose to act like the type of person you want to be, then you kind of already are that person. Just to give another personal example, I've always told myself, I won't dance, don't ask me. I'm very musically inclined, but dancing never felt like a natural way to express how music made me feel, and I'm also very bad at it, so I just decided not to do it. But then, just recently, my girlfriend convinced me to learn the choreography for Soda Pop. I was very embarrassed the entire time, and objectively, I am still not good at dancing. But I had a lot of fun, and I proved to myself that I can do something even if it scares me and I'm not immediately nailing it. The point is, believing that change is possible can be terrifying. There is so much in the world that will reinforce negative outlooks on ourselves and the world around us. But like Jinwoo, we get to choose whether or not we feel hope. And I think that message is why so many people connect with this character. That and no other reason. Next, I want to talk about Zoe, because she's my absolute favorite. In some ways, she's the most static member of Huntrix throughout the narrative. She remains optimistic throughout most of the runtime.
Don't worry, I'm sure Soda Pop is just a fad.
And even when she's worried about Rumi, there isn't conflict between them like there is with Mira. But this even-keeled personality actually hints at what lies beneath the surface. The biggest insight we get into her core wounds are at the doctor's office.
Eagerness to please. Maybe a little too eager.
What?
And when Gima gains access to her mind.
You're too much and not enough. You'll never belong anywhere.
Clearly, Zoe is a people pleaser, and as a result, she feels the need to filter her personality so it's more palatable.
I'm not like that. You guys would tell me if I was really like that, right?
Zoe often feels torn in multiple directions and tries to play into what others expect from her, rather than living in her unfiltered truth.
I live two lives, try to play both sides.
One way I think we see this is in how often she tries to over-explain or caveat the things she says.
Don't worry, it's totally legit.
To be fair, that's also something a magician would do.
She leads with more explanation than necessary, and when she senses disagreement or hesitation, she pulls a complete 180.
Okay, great. Well then, I might as well just tear these all up.
And this is part of why she is so even-keeled throughout the movie. She's worried that if she acknowledges a problem, that she'll become the problem, when in reality, she just cares about the well-being of the group.
Would you two stop fighting each other and look?
I also think that this desire for permission is why we see such a shift in personality when she's fighting demons or rapping on stage. These outlets are a confirmed safe space for her to let out intense emotions. She's normally worried that her intensity will be off-putting, but the fans have explicitly stated that it's part of what they like about her onstage persona.
She's the cutest magnet.
But when she raps, she goes hard.
She gets real scared.
Even at the height of the movie's conflict, the only reason she turns against Rumi is because Mira already raised her weapon, signaling that Zoe should too. And if you look closely, Zoe's weapons are positioned more defensively rather than at Rumi. In terms of growth for the character, we get 3 significant beats throughout the runtime. The first is when she speaks about what it means to be a part of Huntrix.
Before I joined Huntrix, I felt like my thoughts and my lyrics and all my notebooks were just just useless.
Once again, this speaks to Zoe feeling like she needs permission to be herself.
But with the two of you, they mean something. I mean something.
Huntrix may have given her that permission, but she still needs to learn how to give herself that permission to be who she really is. The second moment of vulnerability is when she sings,
"Why did I cover up the color stuck inside my head?"
After seeing Rumi embrace her identity, Zoe realizes that the parts of herself she's been censoring aren't something to be ashamed of, they're something beautiful. Additionally, using the symbolism of colors stuck inside her head draws a connection between Zoe's struggles and Rumi's patterns. The final moment of vulnerability is at the end of the film when she tells Rumi,
Rumi, I'm so happy you didn't, die.
Zoe saying this is extra significant because no one else brought up their feelings first. She wanted to talk about emotions, and she didn't censor herself even though she was nervous.
You guys just mean so much to me.
With that in mind, Zoe was still nervous to be her unfiltered self. She overcame that fear, but it still shows that there's room to grow in future stories. I think Zoe is really relatable for anyone who struggles with anxiety, and the multifaceted nature of her personality also makes it easy to see ourselves in different aspects of the character. Maybe you relate to being quiet and timid. Maybe you aspire to be as bold and brash as she is on stage. Or maybe you're just a snack goblin. Either way, her depiction on screen is incredibly powerful, even if it's one of the more subtle arcs within the movie. Less subtle in many ways is Mira.
Look, I'm kind of a difficult person.
Part of what I enjoy about this character is that I think we all know someone like Mira, or you are Mira, which is also valid. The reason I say she's less subtle is because even though she keeps people at a distance and tries to act all stoic, it's obvious that she's nervous to open up to people.
Yeah, that's right.
I think a lot of this goes back to her family life, which we don't learn much about. All we know is
apparently she was a black sheep of her family,
and that she was considered a problem child.
'Cause I got too wild, but now that's how I'm getting paid.
In many ways, this would suggest that she has a similar core wound to Zoe. Her personality was also considered too much, but she responded to this criticism quite differently. Rather than trying to appease her family, she broke away from them. Rather than censoring herself, she made directness part of her identity.
Overly blunt, short-fused, highly aggressive.
Rather than matching other people's energy, she became aggressively laid back and disaffected.
Sounds super boring. I'm so down.
The problem with this approach is that even if it keeps people at a distance, the walls Mira puts up are the most obvious. It makes people feel like they have to placate her persona and clearly leads to some resentment.
Not everything is about your insecurities, Mira!
Ironically, most of her significant character moments happen when she's actively trying to act like it isn't a big deal. The first is when she visits Rumi in her room, and even the way she asks to come in is aggressively casual.
Did you want to come in?
I mean, yeah, if you want me to come in, I can come in.
Keeping with that casual distance, look at how she communicates with Rumi in this scene.
So why are you changing our lyrics? What is up with you? I'm pretty good at reading people, and I just can't shake this feeling that you're keeping something from me.
Everything is phrased as an interrogation or accusation, both of which put the focus on Rumi rather than Mira. It's great that she's trying to communicate at all, but if she were emotionally open, she could have said, "Rumi, I'm worried about you. I feel like you're making decisions without us. I'm hurt because it feels like you don't trust me. Do your goals still align with mine?" It's the same thing when they're on top of the train.
Why are you questioning everything we stand for when we're so close to sealing the Honmu?
Mira is scared because she feels like she can't get a read on her best friend. It makes her feel lost and alone. But rather than say any of that, she makes it seem like Rumi is the one with a problem. The first time she admits to her own insecurities is when they decide not to sing Takedown.
My whole life, those things were a liability, but with you guys, they're okay.
This is a huge step because she isn't putting blame on anyone else, and it also gives us more insight into her core wound. Mira's personality created a rift between herself and her family, and obviously that speaks to issues with her parents, not Mira. But Mira doesn't want to be a victim, so she has a static mindset that says, "This is just who I am. I push people away." Even though it's a negative way to view herself, it gives her a sense of agency and control. No one can abandon her if she doesn't let them get close in the first place. The problem is, even if she keeps her friends at a distance and pretends not to care, they still mean a great deal to her. So she still gets all the negative emotions that comes with being vulnerable, and none of the benefits. This is further supported when we hear Gima talk to her.
You thought you found a family? You don't deserve one.
She didn't want to admit it, but Zoe and Rumi broke through her walls a long time ago. She's not as stoic as she wants people to believe, and she's deeply insecure that they'll leave her behind. That's why when Rumi is exposed at the Idol Awards, Mira jumps to the worst possible conclusion. In reality, Rumi didn't want to show them her patterns because she loved them, and was worried that they would leave if they found out. But in Mira's mind, Rumi hid her patterns because she never cared about them in the first place, and didn't trust them with her secret. Like Zoe though, Mira realizes she was wrong once Rumi returns in her true form. When she sings,
I should've let the jagged edges meet the light instead.
It's her way of coming to terms with what it means to be a real family. You don't need to hide the imperfect parts of yourself. The people who matter will love you in spite of imperfections, and sometimes specifically because of them. I think Mira is such a great character because her insecurities are both easy to understand and incredibly transparent. Her problems have a solution that is simple, but not easy. All she has to do to find love is stop pushing the ones who love her away, but that requires a level of trust and bravery that is incredibly difficult to come by. Also, before I move on from talking about the characters, I just want to mention a cool detail that I noticed. Just like the Ninja Turtles, the weapon choice for each of the girls feels very intentional. Rumi is the leader. She wants to seem as normal as possible and conform to the standard she's been taught to value. Because of this, she gets a sword, which is about as standard of a weapon as you can get. Mira's goal is to keep people at arm's length, so she gets a weapon that is designed to do just that. And Zoe has two distinct personality types, so she has a weapon that can be used up close in melee or thrown from a distance. So, up until now, this video has been nothing but praise, which makes sense. I love this movie and think it's pretty darn close to perfect. But there are two elements in particular that make this movie a 9.9 rather than a 10 out of 10. First is Celine.
Yes, Celine.
But Dylan, Celine is only in the movie for 5 minutes. How can you have a problem with her? Well, that is my problem. Despite her lack of screen time, Celine is the most important character thematically aside from Rumi. She is Rumi's core wound.
Why couldn't you love me? I do. All of me.
She is the one who taught her to be ashamed of her patterns,
Cover those up.
and taught her to deny her true identity.
You're not one of them, Rumi. You're a hunter, just like your mother was.
Even the prejudice shown by Zoe and Mira was instilled in them by Celine.
Your faults and fears must never be seen.
To overcome her own shame, Rumi has to overcome Celine's influence, but her lack of presence throughout the runtime makes this less impactful. Sure, their scene together in the graveyard is incredible.
Rumi, we can still fix this.
Don't you get it? This is what I am.
But we should have gotten more scenes between them to build up to this. Obviously, Mira and Zoe act as a counterpoint to Jinu in terms of accepting patterns.
Yeah, because we hate him and we hate demons.
But they can't flesh out Rumi's desire for maternal affection. The graveyard scene shows that Rumi wanted Celine to love her unconditionally, but that need isn't explored at all up until this point. Even if Celine didn't appear physically, adding additional scenes where Rumi calls her on the phone to update her on Golden and the Idol Awards would flesh out her need for approval. Celine could then reiterate the importance of perfection and not give Rumi the validation she's seeking. Generational trauma is a central motif in this narrative, but they only focus on the filial generation with Rumi, and not the parental generation that set these problems in motion. Clearly, there's a lot more backstory to this character, and I imagine she'll be a focal point of the next movie. But Celine's absence throughout Act 2 heavily undercuts one layer of the narrative. The second fault I see in this movie is somewhat related to this, and is also the second word in the title. The messaging of Kpop Demon Hunters is incredibly poignant, but occasionally the metaphors get a bit mixed up. In this movie, patterns are pretty clearly a metaphor for shame.
One of the hunters bears my mark.
This means she has shame.
Rumi's patterns represent the shame she feels about her demonic heritage.
You want to talk about my patterns? I hate them, just like I hate all demons.
And Jinu's patterns represent the shame he feels for abandoning his family.
But the patterns, they kept spreading.
until they consumed me.
Sounds pretty straightforward, right? Well, as far as we know, all the demons have patterns.
Do hunters kill all demons? So everything that has patterns?
And according to Ginu, all demons feel shame.
That's all demons do, feel our shame.
But this doesn't seem to be the case. When Rumi asks a demon if it's a prisoner,
is Kima making you do this?
It seems more than happy to do Kima's bidding, and it doesn't seem to be controlled by shame in the same way Ginu is.
It's how Kima controls us. Do you not hear him in your ear?
Okay, so maybe this only applies to the once human demons? But everything we see of the Sasha boys makes it seem like they're just as mindless as the other demons, and souls are their main motivation, not shame. The reason this is problematic for the themes is because Rumi's arc is about accepting the demonic parts of her heritage. Over the course of the runtime, she realizes that being a demon doesn't make her inherently evil. But aside from her and Ginu, the movie seems to think that being a demon makes you inherently evil. Now, maybe this is a Rise of Skywalker situation, and the point they're trying to make is that your lineage doesn't define you, even if your relatives are evil. But this would mean Rumi's goal should be to let the past die.
Kill it, if you have to.
This can't be the case though, because her desire to do so is part of the lie she believes early in the movie.
Put these patterns all in the past now.
And her success in the movie is contingent on embracing who she really is. Ultimately though, the inconsistencies of this metaphor aren't that big of a deal for two main reasons. First of all, the movie needed disposable bad guys, so the narrative makes an arbitrary distinction between cute, redeemable boy demon and monster demons that are okay to murder.
My sword will happily show you to your grave.
Secondly, the actual character arc is still perfectly executed. We can easily track Rumi's progression from shame and denial, to seeking external validation, to consciously validating her own identity and living in her truth. We only notice the inconsistencies in the metaphor because the messaging is so well defined. It's not like, say, Frozen, which thinks it's a story about the bond between sisters, but what the plot actually tells us is, neglect and abandon your little sister all you want. She'll still sacrifice her life to save you. Anyways, that's really all the criticism I have for this movie, but there is a criticism I've seen online that I do want to talk about. If you've seen my other videos, you know I'm a big proponent of show don't tell. This basically means that if you can communicate something through action, visuals, or subtext, it's better than doing so directly through dialogue. With that in mind, some might be surprised to know how much I like the dialogue in this movie. After all, it can be incredibly on the nose in terms of both exposition.
It's our most important show. It's when we strengthen the Honmun for the entire year.
And themes.
No more hiding. No more lies.
But what's important to remember is that storytelling isn't about information. It's about emotion. Even if we know how a movie is made, or what a particular line of dialogue is trying to do.
You think you can do these things, but you just can't, Nemo.
The only thing that matters is if it makes us feel something. It doesn't matter that Rumi's dialogue is a bit clunky.
We can't skip it. We just can't. Not when I'm so close.
Because you still feel her emotion. We know this dialogue is meant to establish the stakes, but we still believe in the stakes because Rumi feels them so intensely. It's the same thing when she says this.
How am I supposed to fix the world when I don't have my voice?
Rumi is literally laying out the external and internal conflicts she will face for the rest of the movie. There is no subtext or subtlety, but the performance and filmmaking in this moment come together to make you care immensely. In the end, this is really what separates bad kids movies from great movies for the whole family. Just like Puss in Boots, the story and characters are simple enough for anyone to understand, but also contain enough depth to justify multiple viewings. Finally, I want to talk about what I consider to be this movie's X factor. The thing that makes it so easy to obsess over and so easy to project onto. The world building in Kpop Demon Hunters is phenomenal, especially when we consider the limits of the runtime and medium. In just over 90 minutes, this animated movie tells a complete, poignant story and introduces a world that can sustain numerous sequels, series, and spin-offs. We don't know what happened to Rumi's mom, Rumi's dad, or the third Starlight Twilight sister, but I'm confident that the creators of this movie do. We don't get to see what happened with Mira or Zoe's family, but we can feel how it affected them throughout the narrative. Is there a way to bring Jinu back? What happened to Baby and Romance? Why didn't Gima have control of Rumi? What was Celine doing in the graveyard? How does she feel about the iridescent Hanmoon replacing the golden Hanmoon? Does the audience know that demons exist now? Unlike, say, Star Wars, these questions fill me with excitement, not concern, because I trust in the creative team and the world they've created. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but this really feels like it's going to be one of the next great franchises, and we're getting in on the ground floor. I didn't expect this to be one of my longest videos, but here we are. If you've got any fun facts about this movie, please leave them in the comment section so we can geek out together. If you want more content like this, you'll probably enjoy watching my video on Mean Girls or my analysis of the Moana soundtracks. I'm Dylan, and this has been The Writer's Block.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, bye.